So today we're going to talk about the monkey mind and how the monkey mind chatters at us. Yeah. So when we think about the monkey mind is that part of us that it's the judgmental side, right? My shirt's like way off tack here. So it's the judges that sit in our heads and tell us, you should be doing this, you should be doing that. Wow, you suck at this, and wow, you suck at that. Oh my God, nobody loves you, everybody hates you, think you'll eat some worms, right? So that's part of, or that is what we're talking about today in terms of the monkey mind. So I just want to define what I mean by the monkey mind. And now I want to talk to you about why the monkey mind is the way it is. Okay, so when you think about the monkey mind has a couple of different things that it does, right? First thing it does is that it reinforces our beliefs about ourselves. Okay, that's the very first thing it does. It is a way of solidifying our sense of self. Okay, and usually it's solidifying our sense of self in a way that we really don't like. Hey, Valerie. So when we are hearing those thoughts from our monkey mind, it's reinforcing the filters. We see our life through a filter, right? So if you wonder why, let's say for instance, you think about a detective goes to a crime scene and they will interview 10 different eyewitnesses to the crime, and they will get 10 completely different accounts of what happened in that crime. And the reason for this is that as they are viewing the crime, each person who is seeing it is seeing it from a different perspective, because they're not all standing in exactly the same place, and they're not all exactly the same height, and they don't all have the exact same visual acuity and audio acuity. And so they all have different perspectives. But in addition to that, they all have different filters. And so think about a filter this way. A filter is what we use to filter out all the crap we don't need to know about, right? So if you have a car that you're happy with, you don't pay attention to what the other cars on the road are. But the moment you start thinking you might want to replace that car, and you think, oh, maybe I'd like a red Prius or something, right? Now, everywhere you go, all you see are red Priuses, right? That's because you changed your filters. Not because there are suddenly more red Priuses on the road than there used to be. No, it's because you're noticing them. And in the process of noticing them, you are allowing that to come through, and then they seem to be everywhere, right? And it's just because you're noticing them. So every person at that crime scene has a different set of filters. And they will see the experience at the crime scene through their own set of filters. And so if they assume that the world is a horrible place, then they will see more horribleness to the crime scene. If they think that the world is a wonderful place, then they will see less horribleness to whatever the crime scene is, right? And it's just a matter of what information we take in. There are a million billion different pieces of information going out through the world on a daily basis. And so what we have to keep in mind is that what we take in is a function of our filters. And our filters are our stories being reinforced by our monkey minds. Okay? So your monkey mind will say, wow, I suck. I'm always going to be suckage, you know, and nobody loves me and everybody hates me, and that's always going to be the way, right? And every single situation that you see will reinforce that, right? And if something doesn't fit your story, you will delete it. Okay, funny story about that. I was at a retreat, and this was, oh God, probably a decade ago. And I was at this retreat, and I had been trying to join in conversations with every person in the room. And there were a lot of people in the room, and they were all in these small little groups having conversations. And I couldn't get into any of the conversations. And so I went over and I sat on the couch, and I felt very sorry for myself, because one of my big stories at the time was that nobody wanted me around. I wasn't welcome. And so I'm sitting there, and my roommate at the time comes by, and she sits down next to me, and she goes, "You okay?" And I said, "No." She said, "Why not?" I said, "Nobody wants to talk to me." I said, "I tried to talk to everybody in the room and nobody would let me in." And she said, "Well, I'm talking to you." And I swear to you, I had to bite my tongue, because the next thing that was going to come out of my mouth was, "Yeah, but you don't count." Because I was so attached to my story, right? And I outed myself to her, and I said, "Oh, I was just about to say this to you." And I realized how ridiculous that statement is, and how much it shows that I am attached to this story of not being welcome and nobody caring about me. And I said, "So I think I'm just going to get over myself and I'm going to go dance." She said, "Okay." And off I went, right? So, this is the thing, is that we will totally disregard anything that doesn't fit our mindset, right? And so when we do that, we're reinforcing the story over and over and over again. And the monkey mind is just reinforcing that story, and it's going, "See, nobody wants to talk to you." And when somebody talks to you, you go, "Yeah, but they don't count. You didn't go looking for them. You didn't ask to talk to them, so they don't count." Right? And that's what we do. We disregard, and then we forget. We have this convenient amnesia that says, "Oh, nope, 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 that never happened," right? And so this is what your monkey mind is doing. It's reinforcing your sense of yourself and who you are and how you are in the world and how other people are in relation to you. And all it's doing is reinforcing those belief structures. And if your belief structures are not very kind to you, then your monkey mind will be a right bastard to you. And that's just how it is. In fact, most of us, if we took our monkey minds out of our heads and we had somebody else saying to us what our monkey minds are saying, we would probably punch them in the face. That's what we would do. Because that's what happens, right? We get pissed off because, somebody said something to us. But we say worse to ourselves every day. Every day. It just never ends. We beat ourselves senseless, right? One of the things that I find, I work with a lot of people on their spiritual paths, and one of the things that I find happening over and over and over again with all the people that I work with is that they beat themselves up for the mistakes that they make. And you're sitting there and you're saying, "Okay, but aren't we on a learning process?" Right? And isn't that learning process going to be improved by not beating ourselves up, because we're trying to learn to love ourselves? And yet it doesn't matter, right? The logic isn't there. The logic doesn't come into play because the story says, "I'm not good enough. I screw up," right? And so the monkey mind is going, "You screwed up. You're not good enough. Look at you. You screwed this process up. Even as you're trying to get better, you're still screwing up." Right? That's what happens. And, this is the piece that I see people miss a lot in their process, is this need to shift the monkey mind. And, we talked about positivity last time. And people think, "Oh, well, it's all about being positive." And it isn't. It isn't just all about being positive, because, you can be positive until the cows come home, but the monkey mind is still going to reinforce that belief structure. So what you have to do is change the belief structure, right? Because how you take information in is dependent upon that belief structure. So I can't remember if I told the story or not, and if I have, I apologize. I'm going to tell it again because it's relevant in this moment. So, the monkey mind tells us what we believe about ourselves, and it leaves behind anything that we don't. And so if you're on the street and a homeless guy looks at you and he screams, "You're a horrible person, you should just go home and kill yourself," and you look at the homeless guy and you put that through your filters, right? So if your filters say, "I'm a good person, I'm a good person, I have a right to be on the planet, and I'm doing great things in the world," then when the homeless guy says that to you, that's not going to fit with your belief structure. And so your filters are going to go, homeless guy's having a bad day, and you're going to let it go, and you're going to forget about it 5 minutes from now. However, if your belief structure says, I'm a bad person, everybody knows I'm a bad person, I'm trying not to let people know I'm a bad person, but I'm a bad person, and I'm trying so hard, but I'm so tired, and I might as well just give up, and I don't see any point in going on, nobody loves me anyway. Then when a homeless guy looks at you and yells that at you, even though he's saying it to everybody who's going by, when he says it to you, it gets through your filters, and you might think, oh, yeah, I am a bad person. You're right. I should just go home and kill myself. Okay, now there's variations in the middle of where you might be in that moment, but it's not what the homeless guy said. It's how you received it that made a difference, right? So when we look at our monkey mind chatter and the la 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 la, part of it is it's reinforcing our belief structure. So if you don't like what you're hearing in your head, change your belief structure. Okay, that's number one. Number two, the monkey mind operates under a safety premise. It is an emergency warning system. Okay, so the second thing that happens with the monkey mind is it forms an emergency system for you. It is your reptilian brain going off, going, danger, Will Robinson, danger. There's something horrible happening. You better pay attention, right? And that mechanism is the piece that makes our adrenaline go, right? Now, the story could do that too, so it's not always the only thing that sets it off. It depends on what your story is. But the defense mechanism will always just set you right off. Your adrenaline's going to go up. You're going to be on hyper vigilant alert. You're going to be like, what the hell, la, 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 right? Because your monkey mind has said you're in danger, okay? And that shows up in weird places. Shows up very strangely, right? So it can be anything from I'm on an interview and I am desperately afraid somebody's not going to approve of me, to I am walking down a dark alley and I'm afraid somebody's going to jump out at me, right? So, I mean, it could be it's a wide swath of stuff that shows up. And oftentimes it can actually intertwine with those stories too. Because it comes up from our past, right? So if you grew up in a household where you had somebody who was abusive in your house, and someone on the street or someone in your office or somebody in your life says something similar to what the person in your childhood used to say, it will likely set off the survival mechanism response, right? It'll be like, am I in danger now? This person's just said something very similar. They just said, oh, well, isn't that just great, right? And you're like, am I about to get hit? Am I about to get hit with an emotional attack, which is oftentimes more damaging than a physical one, just so you know. At least with physical ones, we have scars to show. With emotional ones, we can't justify that we're in pain because there's no scars to show. And so we were like, oh, no, it wasn't that bad. But it was. It was that bad. Let me just tell you, it was. But we go, right? And the emotions come up and the adrenaline comes up and the, right? And it's not that we're back in that moment. We're not re-experiencing that. And yes, Marilyn, I'll talk about that in just a second. We're not re-experiencing the trauma of that moment, but we're on guard for that trauma to happen from somebody else, right? So I want to be really clear. I'm not talking about an active PTSD response where you're actually going back in time to that moment and having that experience again and forgetting where you are, okay? That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that you're on guard that this experience I had in the past might happen again now, and I'm freaking out about it, right? And so that's the emergency monkey mind response, right? Okay. When you have a monkey mind, and let me talk about Marilyn's question here. It says, can you talk about the endless to-do list of monkey mind? It's almost as if I don't have If I don't have that chatter, I won't know how to think or be, right? Your answer is inherent in your question, okay? So the monkey mind in this scenario is reinforcing a belief for you that says, I can't be trusted to do things. I have to be driven to do things. And so your monkey mind is driving you to get it done, because if it doesn't drive you, you might become the lazy person that you inherently are in your head, right? That's the belief structure, that's what's about, okay? So that's the piece that's the I've got to beat myself senseless, right? So there's another belief structure that says, if I don't beat myself up for the thing I did wrong, I'm just going to keep doing it over and over again because I'm stupid and I'm not going to learn from what I got, right? From what I experienced. And that's an inherent, quiet little belief structure that causes you to say, oh, look, I screwed that up. 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 I screwed that up. I screwed that up. I screwed that up. I'm a terrible person, right? That belief structure says if I beat myself hard enough, I will learn not to do this again. But if I don't beat myself hard enough, I'll do it over and over again. Okay? And that's not really a valid thing either, right? Because, you know, by the time we've beaten ourselves up once, we got it, right? So the to-do list piece is I'm afraid that I'm a lazy person, and if I don't beat myself with my to-do list, then I might just go be lazy and useless, okay? There's another possibility in there where that may come from, and it depends on the person. For me, I had this. For me, I actually had the experience of using that endless to-do list as a way to feel important, because I didn't feel very important. And so having this long list of things to do and all these people who were relying upon me and all this stuff that only I could do, and I had to do it right and I had to do it perfect and I had to made me feel important. And so, you know, that may be the story that's underlying that as well. It depends on where it comes from for you. There also could be a work ethic under there as well. I know Kathy, she and I have talked about this, and for her, the endless to-do list thing comes from being a farm kid, where you had your chores and you had to do your chores and you had to work hard, and if you didn't work hard, you weren't earning your keep and you weren't doing what you were supposed to do, and you have to work hard to get anything in life, right? And so the endless to-do list is a function of being good enough by working hard, right? So there's several ways in which that could be sneaking into your psyche, and so that's something that you may want to do. One of the things that I found for that was one of the early ways that I managed to start to contain that for myself was being able to, hey Scott, was being able to write down everything on the to-do list right before I went to bed, and bringing that to-do list to bed with me, so that if I thought of something I had forgotten, I would just write it down on a piece of paper, and that way I could sleep. Because especially early on, in my early 20s, I was actually selling real estate, and I would wake up at like 1 in the morning and go, oh, I forgot to do this, right? Because I didn't have my systems in place yet, and so I didn't have any way of tracking, and it was all in my head. And I was like, ah! And so, you know, it'd be from 0 to wide awake, and then I'd have to get out of bed and go do something. When I put a piece of paper next to my bed, I would just write it down, and then I could let it go and go back to sleep. So that's a tool that you can use to help yourself sleep better when you've got that sort of going on. That's helpful. Okay. Any other questions about the monkey mind before we wrap up? I know we're a little early for the wrap up, but I'm a big believer in stop talking when you've said everything. So anyone else have any other questions? Okay. I'm not seeing anything come up, but I'm going to remind you that if you have if you're really feeling like a lot of these things are relating to you, and you're really feeling like you want to do something about it, and that, you know, framing the concept is not quite enough to get you where you want to go, then I would really encourage you to sign up for a breakthrough session with me. And I'm typing in the code for that right now. If you follow that link, it's bit.ly/Kelle, capital K, lowercase ELLE, capital BC for breakthrough call. Then you can set up a breakthrough session with me, and we can have a longer conversation about exactly what's going on in your life, exactly what challenges it is that you're experiencing, what's happening for you, and you know, map out a path out for you. Okay? Thanks for coming out, guys. I really appreciate the support and coming and watching the videos. And you know, feel free, if you want to share a video with someone else, know that I do actually post these on YouTube. You won't be able to share them from the group because it's a private group thing. I want people to be in the group to be on the lives, but you can always invite your friends to the group. And I do post these to Facebook when I'm done. So if you want to share the video itself with a friend, you can get them off of, I'm sorry, not Facebook, YouTube. You can get them off of YouTube. You can search for my channel. It's just Kelle Sparta. And you can pull the videos from there. If you can't find it for some reason, feel free to private message me and I'll be happy to send you the link to it. Okay? Have a great one. Yeah, I can't breathe. Okay. Have a good one, guys. I'll talk to you next time.